There's a ton of opportunity on LinkedIn. We all know that by now. Talked about it. There's tons, millions to billion users now using LinkedIn. So the opportunity is kind of endless. But what I found is that early on in my career, I took my cold calling list, my email list, and tried to just connect with those people and sell to those people on LinkedIn. That wasn't the best strategy. So what I want to talk about today is how to leverage LinkedIn properly, how to leverage Sales Navigator, how I built a business making 25,000 a month through LinkedIn and Sales Navigator, all the ins and outs of how to use it successfully, filtering, Boolean search, including just advanced techniques that I'll walk you through next. So why don't we jump straight into it? I'm going to share my screen with Sales Navigator, and we'll kind of talk through it, and you can get how I approach it, right? To kind of ease that like mental turbulence around, okay, now I'm on Sales Navigator, I'm paying for this tool, somewhat expensive, I need to get to work. So I'll share my screen next. Okay, so now you can see Sales Navigator, right? So the way I think of Sales Navigator is I'm going to leverage everything I can here to find my ideal customers. Instead of like, hey, my ideal customer profile is sales reps in the US 1 to 10 years. Like I'm going to look at all of these fields here that Sales Navigator has, which hopefully you can see very clearly, and try to make my ICP list here. So the nice thing is LinkedIn Sales Navigator spoon feeds it for you. Allow it to do so. And so don't be so stubborn on what you think the ICP is. Obviously have a general understanding of like I just walked through, sales reps in the US, 1 to 10 years experience, but let these fields help you. And I'll talk you through kind of my favorite ones to use. So obviously you have current company. Actually, I'll take a step back. You basically you leverage Sales Navigator from a lead perspective, like who the lead is, or an account perspective. So if you're targeting more account-based, you're going after accounts that are leveraging Shopify, like this could be the way to go, which will lead to the leads. Typically, I use leads. I'm trying to get a hold of a specific set group of people, thousands of people, within a specific domains. These domains, as you can see, it's kind of broken up into company, role, personal, workflow, recent updates, best path in, and buyer intent, right? So you can get to know this. As I dove in, again, what I did first was like, okay, I need sales reps. I need 1 to 10 years. I'm just going to do US and see what populates. Allow these fields to help you. And then think creatively, have fun with it about how you can leverage these fields to ultimately sell better. I like to call it what hits best with your customer profile, what punches weight best, what kind of aligns best. And that's the most ideal to the desk level, if possible, to the person you're doing outreach to. So ideally, if you're reaching out to a VP of sales, you want to get as close to his or her desk as you possibly can with like a social proof. Like I've literally helped this VP of sales in the same industry, with X, and that helps solve for, Y and Z kind of thing. That's ultimately how I think about it. That's the best way to do outreach. So if you have social proof that hits really well with a specific set of people, maybe it's VP of sales, maybe it's manager, start there. And ultimately that's going to, derive much better results for you. So as you can see here, you can kind of dive into current companies. The more companies you have here, it doesn't really matter, right? Gets you a bigger audience. But I think what's really cool about Sales Navigator, my number one tip here is the exclusion piece. Like all of these fields, except for the ones where you can toggle on and off, but these ones with the plus or minus, and you can expand or collapse, they're going to have exclusions. So exclude, if I'm only doing, I want to reach out to the accounting team, and I definitely don't want business development, but I do want, IT, I'm going to exclude, and then include IT. Right? And obviously it's going to filter accordingly. That may seem obvious, but most people do not do the exclusion. You can take this another step further to say, not business development, or, kind of keep it there. You can kind of have fun with your Boolean search. So like, you want to be crystal clean with your lead list here. And of course, always looking through. I mean, these are 27 million results that have come up. So continue to clean. That's just an example, right? And I do that. That's probably one of my biggest pieces of advice is literally the inclusion and the exclusion, and then cleaning it up in your Boolean search here. Okay, awesome. So you can do that. Obviously, the same thing with titles, right? Like I want, and so this one doesn't give you the title, so you're gonna have to type in, vice president, and then it'll pop up. One other pro tip here is that you're going to want to think of what would people put as their job title. They don't just write VP or vice president, just gave it away. They might do VP also. And then see, it doesn't populate here. You just want to click enter and you'll see that the list changed, right? And so that's important call out. I've seen people just only go with what LinkedIn Sales Navigator here has here. That's also a huge miss. Like put in everything here. Like it doesn't even matter if I'm just so like clean this data as much as possible. It's really easy to do it. And put in, anything you might think here. But I definitely do acronyms and more condensed wording too in these titles. Again, you can hover over this and do not, right? Or exclude rather. So really good there. So 2 points there. Do the inclusion, do the exclusion, fill out each title, and also put in, write in your own too. So same thing here, right? If you think it would be like ed tech, right? So for the function, you cannot actually hit the enter here, but for job title, you can. So just pay attention to that. Sometimes these change a bit. So as you can see here, I tried to type in like ed tech, and it wouldn't let me add it. Whereas down here for the current job title, so always just test it out to see if it allows. And I will say Sales Navigator does change that a bit. Seniority level, great. Post, pretty straightforward examples. You can kind of see all the fields here, right, as to how it would help. Basically what you're paying for Navigator, in my opinion, is this advanced filtering. If you're using, the basic form of LinkedIn, like you can do some good filters, you can do a great Boolean, which definitely works. Start there. But what you get here is much more signals, much more buyers stuff here. And this is really how I kind of honed in my list, right? The more that you figure out who's actually using LinkedIn, this may sound super obvious, but I promise you it's not. And working with 40 clients and building a book of 25,000 a month in Sales Nav, people are reaching out to the wrong people, and their data of who they're reaching out to isn't good or strong. So define your ICP, define it to a T like this, and do this with every field. Current company, I'm going to reach out to Continental Properties. I'm going to exclude Prosper Real Estate. I'm going to build my list this way, okay? Take out Continental. That's probably not a good one, right? Let's do like Salesforce. Let's do Zoom. Okay, so then let me take off the not this development. Okay. So you just have to clean up the filters accordingly and play around with it to figure out how you can get your list, So let me jump into kind of my pieces of advice here. Obviously the inclusion, the exclusion, obviously the keywords and Boolean search up here to make sure your data is super clean. The typing of each one of these fields here to make sure that you're getting the data even more clean, right? Like if it's vice president, you want to type in VP. The other thing that's really cool here is the recent updates field. This is a great, think of it here. These are like hot items, if you will, is to find out more about, let me take off account counting here just to have more, right? So if I'm going after Zoom here and I have 10,000 people, I can look at those that have changed jobs recently, meaning that they've come into Zoom somewhat recently, posted on LinkedIn. So in the last couple of weeks, they've posted on LinkedIn. Obviously, right here, it tells you how many people it's going to consolidate to. So from 10K to literally 214 people, you're going to get a much cleaner, more active list right here. So in obvious terms, right, this is an obvious field to toggle most of the time, but it obviously consolidates your list. And not everyone posts or changes jobs, right? But it's cool, if you see that there, as soon as I click change jobs, I came to post it, it affected posts on LinkedIn because obviously both of these are now toggled on. So now you're seeing people at Zoom that have changed jobs and posted on LinkedIn, and it's 82 people, right? So you can get a pretty good idea of a more focused list here. So yeah, I think the job change is a really good way. I could reach out to all 214 of these people and say, hey, congrats on your recent role into, Zoom, your new role into Zoom. You know, wishing you all the best, right? Like I like to keep it pretty low pressure, and I'll talk about the messaging later. But again, just defining this list, of course, you're always going to want to scrape it at the end of the day, but job changes are huge. Of course, if they post it on LinkedIn is really big. What's really cool about this, as you can see on the right here, if you click post on LinkedIn, it will literally show you their post on LinkedIn here. So you can click it, see what they posted, how long ago, right? The last 30 days. 2 recent posts on LinkedIn. So this person 4 hours, 1 week ago, a little bit more active. Like you can see how often they're posting. So a lot of signals here to read. Great toggle here. I personally love the recent updates. I love headcount, company headcount. I think it's a great way to obviously consolidate your list. Obviously for Zoom, not a great example, but for a company headcount, right? If you're selling a software tool and it helps HR, and at this point when they kind of get 200 plus, maybe it's 51 plus, they need to start thinking about HR. I'd say probably around the 51, 200, right? Like you can now talk to this, right? Like, hey, I've worked with companies that have 50 to 200 people, love to help out. The other thing I love a lot, this works like probably my number one piece of advice on here, as I'm saying everything that I'm showing you as number one, is it's their past company right here. So what you want to think about here is who are your current customers? So let's say you've done business with Continental Properties and you have a great social proof. You can put Continental Properties here in your past company. Now you know that everyone here, this 832 results, have worked at Continental Properties. They're now working somewhere else. You could do outreach to them and say, hey, so-and-so, like saw you previously worked at Continental Properties. We've helped them with X, which solve for Y and Z. Open for a quick discussion on Thursday, right? So this is a great way to put your current customers in your past company. I've booked tons of meetings that way. I think we've done, as soon as I do business with some company, I think about putting them immediately in this past company, doing outreach to all of the people that previously worked with them. And the bigger the company you land, like if you've done past work with Salesforce, right, you're going to talk about thousands instead of hundreds. That is a really great way to do outreach here. And so, as you can tell, what I'm basically saying with Sales Navigator is spend so much time here. Think about everything in terms of how you can get like a list down to maybe a couple hundred and then test. If it's thousands, no problem, but still test like a smaller sample size of 100 people that you do outreach to, as you're kind of building out, your whole outreach system here on LinkedIn. But Sales Navigator has incredibly helped me. There are 2 other things I want to point out too. Is one, you can get alerts on Sales Navigator, right? So that's great. And then you can also refer people. to Sales Navigator. It's a really cool way. Let's say I was reaching out to, if I was selling sales or recruiting, I could reach out to VPs of recruiting and literally give them a referral. And if you give somebody a referral, it gives them 2 months free of Sales Navigator. So amazing thing. Obviously, you can send it out to 10 people. Really cool. Super awesome to do that. It's easy to refer them. You just have to be connected with them on LinkedIn, and you can kind of move from there. So all in all, what I think would make a huge difference in your approach and how ultimately I got my list much more solid to actually have more meetings and start booking better business was spending so much more time on the data part going into Navigator. So look at all these fields to build out and then think of them creatively. Like, okay, maybe we haven't worked with specifically any companies yet, but we serve company types. Maybe they're public, private, et cetera. Maybe they're headquartered in certain areas. Like, think of where you've won to people that are in similar industries. That punches weight. Like if you've worked with privately held companies, you can look up privately held companies, say and kind of lead that way. So this can build out your niche to have more specific messaging for you, which is awesome. Yeah, I love to share all this with you. Please, let me know what you think, but this will make a ton of change. At first, I didn't leverage any of this. I just started doing volume and it never yielded any responses for me. So, yeah, let me know what you think and stay tuned for the next update.